Hello, and welcome again to Winter's Tales here on ArranSound, where we present the penultimate, which is to say the second last, episode of our sometimes dark and disturbing fairy tale for grown-ups, Dance Beneath a Scarlet Moon. Over the course of our preceding 5 episodes, we've seen newlywed Heather lose her husband to the deadly embrace of the most beautiful but most dangerous of all Celtic fairies, the blood-drinking Baobhan Sith. But Heather has learned the Baobhan Sith keeps the souls of her victims in a tiny but infinitely deep jar in her secret kingdom concealed among the mountains of Arran. Armed only with a weapon of iron being the one thing that has power over the fairies, Heather now sets out to find that secret kingdom and set free the spirit of the man she loves. Down in Whiting Bay, Heather came upon a horse and cart whose owner was making his way to Brodick with sackloads of potatoes. Confronted with a rather fierce-faced young woman who all but demanded he take her with him, the driver grinned and, accepted the company. Even down at coast level, the snow was beginning to settle, the whole island turning ivory white. Heather looked ahead to where the mountains lay, but the white clouds lay too low for any of the peaks to be visible at that distance. The driver tried to make a wee bit of conversation as they jolted along, even suggesting they maybe share a good lunch at a fine old pub he knew over Brodick way. Heather kept her face fixed implacably forward, and he seemed to get the point that she had other plans. Dismounting at Brodick, she had to search around for someone who would take her as far onward up the coast as Sanick's. Finally, she found a motor truck full of beer barrels, headed for a hotel at Corrie. That was, close enough. Again, she imposed herself on the driver through the sheer severity of the look she cast him. And before long, she was walking onward up the last stretch of the coast, to take her to the foot of Glen Sanick's, which she knew represented her easiest path of approach. Trudging on through the thickening snow in the glen, clambering up the side of a small waterfall, she saw the mountain she sought swell into sight through the ongoing snowfall. A bastion indeed it looked, like a great ruined tower looming at one end of the broader castellation of the ridges stretching away around Goat Fell. She paused just short of the going getting seriously steep. The early dark of a December afternoon was already descending, a few ragged wisps of red light showing from the west coast beyond. It would be night by the time she was any distance up the face of the great rock. She wondered what she thought she was doing, if she wasn't perhaps as crazy as a certain policeman and a certain doctor had taken her to be. But no, however deep the dark, however high the climb, she knew what she was there for, who she was there for. James. The very thought of him, his soul at least locked somewhere within that great grim pillar. It stirred her, yes, to a swifter climb. There was no hope now for the marriage she had sailed over here to begin with him. Her every dream of what that marriage might have meant now dead as he was. From the moment they landed, it seemed, she, Shona, Scathach, the Baobhan Sith, whatever she was, had been eyeing their every hope as a black-eyed raven might eye an undefended lamb. What consummation was left, Heather, But whatever bloody struggle lay ahead, oh, she would fight her way up there and fight for her man, though all that remained of him for rescuing was a ghost of the breath with which he'd called out to her. The woman, whatever kind of phantom she was, seemed made of her own brand of flesh and blood, and if Heather could set some of that blood flying, it might just answer for the blood from James, set spurting through the waterfall at Glen Ashdale. But first, the climb. Ascending Glen had shifted into almost vertical mountain slope, and Heather had to struggle her way through snow-swaddled heather, grasping at great fragments of granite where they jutted grey from the general whiteness. Soon there was more raw granite than turf, the broken edges rimmed with ice. She slipped many times and had to clutch on as best she could. The chill from that ice, from that snow, from the fresh falling flakes and swiftning wind, cutting ever deeper through her damp clothing and shivering skin and the tender marrow of her bones. And it was getting dark now. Dark indeed. The mountain yet above her ascending into thicker and thicker shadow, for all the snow upon it. If there was any path to follow, she had lost that path, far, far below. The wintry clouds had begun to part, easing the fall of fresh snow, and letting a crescent moon shine through, sharp and bright as a silver blade. Its glow making the loose snow the strengthening wind blew off the summit of the mountain look like smoke from an immense chimney. Still she climbed, slipping, stumbling, groping, shivering, all but blind, certain all the same there was no other thing to be doing but what she was doing at that moment. She looked up again, using her damp sleeve to wipe warm sweat from her stinging eyes and chilled face. Was that summit at last getting close? Yes, she dragged herself on, upward, fresh pulse in her frozen body. Yes, at last, just an easy scramble to the summit's upper edge. A few more slabs of broken granite to clamber over, their spiky anglings in the moonlight suggesting some hot scream within the earth that had frozen in the upper air. And when she heard an actual cry in the air just above her, she thought for a second her all but delirious fancy had conjured it from her imagination. But then an explosive burst of black feathers and beak and beady claws dropped about her, and she realised the screech was that of a raven dropping to attack. It drove that beak hard into her face, snapping at her cheek. She raised a hand from the rock, swiping the bird aside as best she could. It flitted away, and then swooped anew. She tried to cast it another blow, but this time beak and claws caught at her hand, sharp bitings tearing through the leather of her gloves to the fingers beneath. She swayed the hand hectically this way and that, hoping to shake the attacker off, but it simply bit and clawed sharper till she felt its next peck might break a bone. She brought up her other hand to help the hand already seized. In doing so, she had to let go of the great slab of granite she was currently scaling, clinging to it now with only her feet poised on an icy ledge below. The raven turned from biting and clawing one hand to attacking the other. In her attempt to smack it aside with the bleeding hand just freed, she shifted so sharply that she lost her footing, began slipping into space. The raven flew away. and for the sheerest instant as she dropped, she glimpsed tiny points of lamplight glowing along the shore of the faraway mainland, and knew no pair of eyes under those lamps would be remotely aware of her dying. But something caught her left wrist, clutching it tight, as that arm flared high above her head, and she found herself being drawn swiftly up towards the edge of the summit. A figure crouched there and leaning over, looking for all the world like James. James. He pulled her fully upright, there in the warm glow from the hearth. "Awake at last, my darling," he said. What hearth? What glow? What fire? She was on the side of an icy mountain, wasn't she? No, she was in the reception room of his uncle's house. That vast buffet Mrs. McCrae had laid out for their arrival, just beyond his uniformed figure. And he was helping her up from the couch where she'd been sleeping like the dead, my darling, he smiled. What? Of course it has been a busy day for you, he went on. Wedding this morning, that great race out to the coast to catch the ferry, all that sea wind in your face, old Hughie in his trap rattling us all the way up here. Well, no wonder you needed a wee nap, darling. I don't understand, she said. This, here, with you, this was days ago, long days ago, before you. James? Afraid I don't quite follow, darling, he said. But you, yes, we were here, yes. But then she came. She? And then you, if all that happened, don't you see? I can't be stood here with you now. Whatever happened, darling, he said, I'd suggest it only happened in your dream. Dream, she said. Well, you were having some sort of dream, certainly. You lay down on the couch there to have a nap before we started this great feast here. And while you were shifting about a wee bit in your state of unconsciousness, mumbling even, under your breath, though I confess I couldn't make out a word of it. A dream, she said. All that. No, it couldn't be. A dream or a nightmare, he smiled. If the latter, I hope it wasn't your new husband who inspired it. He kissed her gently on the forehead. A dream, she repeated, gasping, almost laughing with incredulity at the thought of all that loss and pain and terror being so simply banished. A virgin bride, I can well imagine, has a lot on her mind on her wedding night, he said. Anxieties about, well, like I say, one can imagine. Which leaves it up to a new husband, more practised, as is the proper thing, to take her gently in hand. Let her know married life isn't quite so frightening after all. James, she breathed again, more uncertain than ever what to believe. Come, my darling, he said, taking her hand. I'll show you how real all this is, and how safe you are with me. He led her out of the room and up the stairs, up to their bedroom. The fire was blazing there too, the covers on the great bed neatly folded back. "There we are," he said. "After all this commotion and ceremony and, well, general kerfuffle, a place to be alone together, to be who we truly are with one another, and for the very first time. What's so frightening about that? Come here, my darling. Come here, my bride." He kissed her ardently. His kiss was warm as that climb up the mountain, but that dream of climbing a mountain had been cold, icy cold. Heather made an attempt at kissing him back. Oh yes, he was warm, fleshy, real as life itself. His swiftling caresses eased her towards a seat at the edge of the bed. He stood above her, began unfastening his tunic, tugging open the buttons, impatient. She understood she was to begin undressing too. But why was she dressed like this? This great ungainly overcoat, this thick, unpretty, pragmatic skirt. Walking boots. Damp walking boots. Had she departed her wedding reception dressed like that? "We should put something down, perhaps," he said. "You know, for the blood." "Blood," she murmured, uncertainly thumbing open a button on her coat that felt wet and chilly as if with what? Thawed snow. "I don't like to be indelicate, darling," he said, pulling off tunic, tugging off vest, beating that chest of his so smooth and perfect, save where the most obvious of his wounds cut across it like a trench. Oh, how he must have bled that night. "But first night together, you know, and you such a decent young thing, such a fair maid, well met, as it were. Well, I promise it won't hurt much, darling. I will be careful. I love you. But there's no escaping the blood." He leaned forward, kissed her again with a rougher sort of force this time, encouraging her to lie back across the beard white sheets of the bed. But I still have my coat on," she thought. "My great damp overcoat." Damp! The sheets felt damper still, more than damp. Her hand had dropped to one side across the white fabric. The hand felt icy. The fabric felt crumbly under her palm, stabbing her fingertips with its chill. A chill like snow. He was leaning close above her now, half naked. She never noticed before his smile in shadow could have such a fox-like, feral glint. "But the blood," he was whispering above her, baring his brilliant white teeth. "The blood is the thing that proves it's all real." Blood. She was frightened suddenly. Her hand clenched the silk of the bedsheet. It felt more like a handful of snow than ever. She shuddered, as if her spine were sinking through ice. She snapped her hand back. It knocked against her hip. There was something weighty in the pocket of her coat, weighty, cold in itself, like... As James lowered his lips towards his latest kiss, towards her lips, towards her throat. She shoved her hand in that pocket, feeling for what the object was. It was a bar, a bolt, a peg, a spike of iron, sharp at the tip, cold iron. He started back from her, with a hiss between his bared teeth, stood upright, pale against the dark clouds scudding behind him. Clouds? Where were the walls? Where was the room? The firelight? Moonlight was all the light there was, the light of a shard of silver moon. She twisted herself up from the bed. Bed? No, no. A bed of snow and icy rock. The rough summit of, yes, she looked around, saw the snowy glen stretching far below, the dark and glinting sea, the lamplights lining the faraway mainland shore, the dark mountain ridges stretching on the far side of him. She was on the mountain summit, in her thick coat and damp walking boots. This the reality. That warm room, the wedding night, the living presence of her loving husband, their approaching consummation, those the dream. Now swept aside by a fresh gust of snowflake blowing wind. And James, as those snowflakes gusted, so did his shape gust, shifting in a flurry into another shape entirely, the shape of Shona, or Lady Scathach of the Baobhan Sith rather, the curls of her long black hair, the folds of her long green dress billowing about her in wild exultance at this resumption of her truer form. "You've been taking gifts from the commonest country folk, my breakable little beauty," she said. Heather dragged out the pointed bolt of iron. "I needed help," she said. "I got help, and now I think I'm up for helping myself." "Against me," Shona replied. "Girl, you can't begin to guess how helpless you are." Heather raised herself from the ground, stood upright. "But you've shown me already the tricks you can play," she said. "That was a good one. That whole sweet dream to make me lower my guard. But it wasn't lowered so much I couldn't break free." "Sister," said Shona, "that there was but a game to get the festivities going. It's a pleasure playing with you. I can, of course, take many shapes. As many shapes as there are, flitting through the forest, or frozen into the mountainside, and the shapes of those I've claimed come easiest of all. But it helps, sisterkin, that you've the sight, the second sight, for me to play with." What do you mean?" "I told you I had the sight, didn't I? That first night I met you. I lied. I don't have the second sight. I'm the kind of thing that the sight sees. But you, I sensed it from the first. You've got the sight. Too stupid and city-born maybe to know it, but it's there all right. And it gives me so much more to play with, leading you, luring you into my world like it does." "Oh, but I want to be in your world," Heather said. "That's why I've come, to break into your thief's den and steal back at least some of what you stole." "Stole? Stole," said Shona. "Does the wolf steal the lamb, the hawk steal the hare, the storm steal the calm? Or is it their nature to claim and break the lesser beast? The blood in your world, sister, it doesn't beat fast enough until a creature like me gets close to it. Your man was made alive by me a moment before I laid him dead. Alive like he can never be in your virgin bed. Stole him. I birthed him into his brightest moment. He paid me what was owing for that, no more, no less. And I'm here to pay you what I owe you. I gladly hand it over, soon as I've seen where you've spat my husband's soul." "Ha ha ha," Shona cried. "You have heard tales from that old blacksmith's sow. Tell me, did you see the wreck I left of her man Her manny thought he could do what you're here to do. And let a bone-white, bloodless scrap of him live on to frighten others. And, breed a man that he was, he had so little blood in him to begin with. You, sisterkin, you'll be worth gulping down whole. Heather backed away a step or two, hand tightening in her pocket around that sharpened bolt of iron. Just watch how I stick in your throat, she said. Oh, but you know the throat that it is, said Shona, advancing on her at the same pace. The throat and the bite it's got in front of it. For the form of your fine young man, isn't he, like you've seen? The only form I can take. And careful, careful, that's quite a drop there at your back. And suddenly Shona was leaping forward. Black hair and green skirts billowing in the wind. But those movements in the blink of an eye became the rising hackles, the spiking fur, the fiery eyes and slavering fangs of a great wolf leaping forward. The same wolf which had pursued Heather down Glen Ashdale on the night of James's death. Its raised claws thumped Heather hard. Heather's feet sliding from under her on the slippery rock, she fell at full length, feeling her head hang over the sheer drop to the slope below. The wolf, taking its time, sniffed around her face and throat, warm rancid froth from its jowls dripping upon her. The beast stinking of the heated meat and blood to which Heather herself would shortly be reduced. The creature curled its lips back further, in that semblance of a grin Heather knew so well already. The fangs parted to prepare their bite. Heather tugged the length of sharpened iron from her pocket, stabbing it hard amid the creature's ribs. The wolf drew its head back with a sudden whining scream, steaming fluid spurting about Heather's hand. The beast reared back and away, leaping aside from Heather so swiftly its clumsy move almost kicked her directly over the summit's brink. But Heather grabbed the icy rock either side of her, pushing herself upright to see the wolf bolting away erratically, that short length of metal still protruding from its side. It paused a second, raised a hind leg to scratch hectically at the length of metal. A few clawings sent the metal peg dropping free, clanging and bouncing upon the rock, end over end. Heather could see another handful of such bouncings would send the implement dropping over the summit's edge. It was all the weapon she had. Even as the wolf spasmed and twisted further away, Heather leapt, threw herself at full length after the iron bolt, landing on her front and sliding on the snow and ice, even as she saw the grey metal spinning and bouncing out into thin air. She drove an arm at full stretch into that same thin air. Even as she caught hold of the weapon before it could drop, she heard a great stony boom at her back. Drawing in her arm, twisting about in the ground, she looked for the wolf. The wolf was gone. Gone. No sign of it anywhere. A few wisps of upcast snow fluttering in the air where she had seen it last. She dragged herself to her feet. She recalled all she had been told of a secret door up there in the mountain, a secret route into her enemy's kingdom, and her hope that this door might be some blatantly obvious affair of planed wood and iron hinges. But neither on her climb nor here now in the sharpening moonlight had she seen, or could she see, any such door. She looked around further. What she could see was a trail of dark spatterings in the snow and rock near her feet. the blood she assumed shed by the wolf in its wounded flight. The bloody stains and drips led her eye to a great flat slab of rock, seeming to cease abruptly at its edge. She looked to the bolt, its sharpened end likewise soiled with dark fluid, a sticky liquid visibly red upon the hand she had wrapped around it. She dropped to one knee, driving the bolt's sharpened end hard as she could into the shallow earth to one side of the rock. A red spark flew in the air, the short shaft's end sinking, scraping deeper than she could have guessed. In an instant, that great horizontal slab of rock swung upward, as if hinged indeed at its far end, almost like the hatch of a cellar. Looking down through the vaguely horizontal gap it had opened in the ground, she saw at first only darkness. But as her eyes adjusted and the moonlight shone down sharper still, she beheld a spiralling staircase of raw stone descending into the interior of the mountain. She drew a breath, then tugged the metal bolt from the ground. Immediately the slab began swinging shut once again, and she had to swiftly drive the metal point back into the ground to arrest and reverse that movement. It was plain that without the bolt fixed thereabouts in the ground, the stony door would not remain open. She could leave it behind and keep the doorway ajar, or she could take it with her and have the opening seal itself shut behind her. She wanted that hatchway open, yet even more so she wanted her one weapon with her. She tugged the bolt from the ground. The stone began swinging shut. Before it could finish the action, she slipped, leapt through the gap, landing awkwardly on one of the uppermost steps of that descending stairway, having to dip her head as the rocky doorway sealed itself shut immediately above her. And there we are, our scene set for the final confrontation and final episode of Dance Beneath a Scarlet Moon, which you'll find here next week on Winter's Tales. Same time, same place. I do hope you survive the suspense.